I used to think of my family as ordinary. Maybe that was the first lie I told myself. We lived in a weathered house on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where every scratch in the paint and chip in the porch meant a memory. My dad was the steady one, quiet, patient, always ready with a corny joke or a hand on my shoulder when the world felt too heavy. My mom, on the other hand, was all feelings and stories. She'd see a red cardinal at the window and say it was someone visiting from the other side, or find a penny on the sidewalk and declare it a message from the universe. Dad would wink, give me a knowing grin, and play along, because that's what you do for the people you love. When I was a kid, I thought Mom's stories were magic. She'd tuck me in and tell me about places where memories hung thick in the air, where the walls themselves listened. She'd say, "The world is bigger than what we see, Matthew. Don't ever forget that." But as I got older, the world lost a little of its magic. I learned to check under the bed for dust bunnies, not monsters. Dad got sick. It was quick. The kind of sickness you can't fight with stories or old pennies. He was gone before winter set in. Mom didn't handle it well. At first, she just drifted through the house, a cup of tea going cold in her hands, staring out the window for hours. Then came the signs, feathers, flickering lights, songs on the radio at the exact right moment. "He's still with us," she'd insist, clutching a photo of the three of us from some long ago summer vacation. I tried to be patient. Grief makes people strange. But as months passed, she started reading about haunted places and spirit mediums, watching YouTube videos late into the night. The only time she smiled was when she talked about the veil being thin, or a new haunted house she'd read about in a forum. That was when she brought up the Sallie house. It was a Sunday. I'd come over for dinner, trying to keep up a tradition. She made lasagna, just like old times, but barely touched her plate. Her hands shook as she poured herself a second glass of wine. "I booked us a weekend away," she said suddenly, not meeting my eyes. "Oh." I tried to sound casual, but I was bracing myself. "In Atchison," she said softly. "The Sallie house. They say it's a place where the past lingers." I laughed, but it sounded forced. "That's the one from those ghost documentaries, right? The haunted house?" She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "They say the veil is thin there. Maybe we'll get a sign from your father." Just one more." I wanted to argue. But her eyes were wet, her smile so desperate. "Okay, Mom. We'll go." She squeezed my hand. "Thank you, Matthew." Packing was awkward. Mom made lists, candles, sage bundles, a framed photo of Dad, her old tape recorder. I tossed a few shirts in a bag, feeling like I was heading to a summer camp for the emotionally exhausted. The drive was long and quiet. Mom filled the silence with stories about her childhood, her parents, and eventually about the dreams she'd been having. "He comes to me sometimes," she said, staring out at the endless Kansas fields. "Just on the edge of sleep. He never says anything, just stands there." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded, hands tight on the wheel. The town of Atchison was smaller than I remembered from school field trips. Closed shops, cracked sidewalks, kids on bikes that darted away when our car turned onto the street where the Sallie house waited. The Sallie house looked tired. The white paint was yellowed, peeling in sheets from the siding. The porch groaned under our feet. The air felt stale and oddly heavy. Mom led the way, fumbling with the keys the Airbnb host had mailed her. The door stuck before it swung open with a sigh, as if the house was reluctant to let us in. Inside, the air smelled like dust and something sweetly rotten. Faded wallpaper peeled at the corners. A battered rocking chair sat in the corner, moving just enough to make me uneasy. Mom set Dad's photo on the mantel, arranged 3 candles, and lit them one by one. She stood silently for a minute, lips moving, before finally turning to me. "I just need this, Matthew. Please." I nodded. "It's okay, Mom. I'm here." I wandered the house. The kitchen was cramped, full of ancient cabinets and warped countertops. Upstairs, the bedrooms were small, ceilings low and slanted. The nursery at the end of the hall still had faded wallpaper, tiny lamps and stars, and the infamous rocking chair. The room felt colder than the rest. I shivered and shut the door. I tossed and turned for hours. Every noise, the settling of the house, the wind against the siding, felt amplified. I heard faint knocks now and then. Once, I got up and checked the hall, but found nothing. Then, just after midnight, I woke to 3 soft, deliberate knocks. Silence. Then 3 more. My heart pounded. Probably just pipes, I told myself. But the 3rd time, it was right outside my door. I sat up. Listened. Then a whisper, my name, Matthew, so soft, so much like Dad's voice that for a moment I almost answered. But the voice was wrong. Hollow, stretched, eager. I crept to the door, opened it a crack. The hallway was dark except for moonlight from the nursery. The door, which I'd closed, was ajar. The rocking chair moved in slow, lazy arcs. I shut my door, locked it, and pulled the blanket over my head, shaking. Mom was up early, making tea, humming a song I didn't recognize. She smiled at me. "He was here last night. I dreamed he sat beside me. He's closer here, I know it." Dad's photo now sat on the kitchen counter. The candles had burned down to wax puddles. I forced myself to eat. Mom spent most of the day talking softly to the photo, arranging fresh flowers, and writing in a notebook. I kept my distance, wandering the house, poking around old closets, looking for something, anything to distract myself. The town was dead quiet. Even the birds seemed to avoid our block. That evening, Mom called me to the living room. She'd set out her old tape recorder, fresh batteries, and placed Dad's photo in front of us. "Just humor me, okay?" She pressed record and spoke in a trembling voice, "If you're here, let us know. Give us a sign." We sat in silence. Then, footsteps from upstairs, slow, deliberate, like heavy boots crossing a wooden floor. Mom's eyes widened, not with fear, but wonder. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. I nodded, throat dry. That night, the house felt colder. I cranked the thermostat, but it didn't help. The air in the hallway had a bitter, metallic edge, like breathing in ice water. I locked my bedroom door, wedged a chair under the knob. Sometime after 3, I woke to the handle rattling softly, then the sound of the closet door creaking open. Shadows moved in the dark. I saw a shape, hunched and shifting, just inside the closet. My breath froze. The air felt thick, pressing down on my chest. A whisper again, "Matthew," so much like Dad's, but now hungry, insistent. Then a laugh, Mom's voice, but warped, echoing through the walls. I lay there, heart thundering, staring at the closet until sunrise. At breakfast, Mom acted as if nothing had happened. Dad's photo was now on the windowsill, facing the backyard. I'd had enough. "We need to go, Mom. Now. This isn't helping you." She turned to me, her face caught between anger and grief. "You don't understand. He's here. I can feel him. You're just afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid to let go." Her words stung. I packed my bag in silence. As I left, Mom just stared at me, a strange smile on her lips. "He says you've forgotten him." It was her voice, but not cold, distant, as if someone else was speaking through her. Halfway out of town, my phone buzzed a voicemail from an unknown number. I pulled over, hands trembling. Pressed play. Static, then Dad's voice come back, son, as clear and real as any memory. I threw my phone onto the passenger seat, heart pounding, and kept driving. I didn't go home. I booked a motel 2 towns away, spent the night jumping at every creak, every sound in the hallway. Days turned into weeks. I ignored Mom's calls. Sometimes she left messages short, odd, as if talking to someone else. He's right here with me now. Other times, you have to come back, Matthew. It's not finished. Sleep was hard to come by. I'd wake up certain someone was standing in the corner, or hear knocks on my bedroom wall. Some nights, I'd hear my name, soft and low, just before I drifted off. Mail from Mom started arriving, photos of Dad, with blurry shadows behind him, sometimes with notes. He's here now. Neighbors told me Mom never left the house anymore, talked to people no one could see, set the table for 3 every night. Months later, I caved. I had to know if she was okay, or even still alive. The house looked worse than ever, paint peeling, grass knee-high, windows smeared. I let myself in. The smell of dust and decay was stronger. The walls were covered in photos of Dad, dozens, maybe 100, in frames, taped, or pinned. Candles burned low on every surface. I found Mom in the armchair, rocking gently, staring at the fireplace. Matthew, she said, barely above a whisper. She was thinner, older, her hair streaked with gray. I tried to get her to leave. She just smiled, dreamy, far away. He's here. We're all together again. Her hands were ice cold. She gripped my wrist tightly. You'll see. Just stay a little longer. That night, the house pressed in on me. Shadows moved along the walls. The old nursery glowed with blue light. I heard Dad's voice calling my name, asking me to come home. I left before dawn. Mom watched me from the window, her face pale, a shadow just behind her shoulder. I haven't seen her since. Neighbors say she's still there, talking to someone unseen, waiting. I try to live a normal life. But sometimes, in the dark, I hear my name, or the knock of someone wanting to be let in. The Sallie house took something from both of us. Whatever's in there wears my father's voice, but it isn't him. And deep down, I know I'll never really escape. When my friend Mia invited me to the Sallie house for an energy reset, I thought she was joking. After her breakup, she seemed desperate to fix herself, and I felt guilty for not supporting her. I wasn't sure how a haunted house could help her, but she was insistent. She believed this place, this infamous haunted house, could help her heal. Mia had always been into the mystical stuff. Crystals, tarot cards, energy readings, anything that promised spiritual healing or enlightenment. But this was different. The Sallie house was infamous for its haunted history, the stories of spirits, and the unexplainable events that surrounded it. It was a place that had become a legend in its own right, a location where some people claimed to have encountered the supernatural, others leaving forever changed. I agreed to go, though I was more skeptical than ever. The thought of spending a weekend in a place known for its ghosts felt ridiculous, but I couldn't say no to her. The drive to Atchison, Kansas, was long and uncomfortable. The landscape stretched out before us, endless fields of flat, dry land. The air felt thick with tension, almost suffocating in its quietness. We barely spoke. Mia was lost in her thoughts, staring out the window with that faraway look in her eyes. I glanced at her every now and then. She had always been one to get caught up in the moment, but now there was something different. Something broken. The breakup had shattered her more than I'd realized. The way she spoke about resetting her energy made it sound like this house was her last hope, as if something in there could fix her. She turned to me just before we crossed into Atchison. "I really think this will help," she said, her voice soft, almost pleading. "I need to feel connected again. To something." I nodded, though the feeling of unease in the pit of my stomach grew stronger by the mile. When we finally pulled up in front of the Sallie house, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. The house looked even worse than I had imagined: old, decrepit, and dark. The white paint was peeling, the porch was sagging, and the windows were dark, as if they had been staring out at the world for far too long. Mia was already out of the car before I could even process it. She made her way to the front door like she had done this 100 times, holding the key in her hand with such a calmness that it sent a chill through me. We entered, and the house greeted us with its oppressive atmosphere. The air inside was thick, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. The floorboards creaked under our feet, and the air smelled musty, like old books and dust. Everything about it screamed forgotten. Mia immediately made herself comfortable. She dropped her bags, pulled out a small photo frame, and placed it on the mantel, her fingers brushing against the glass like she was reconnecting with an old friend. She lit a candle and stared at the photo for a long time before speaking. "This is it, Matthew. I can feel him here with us." I tried to force a smile. "It's just a house, Mia," I said, but she didn't seem to hear me. Instead, she wandered off to explore the rest of the house. I didn't know what to do with myself, so I stayed in the living room, pacing slowly as I glanced at the old furniture, the peeling wallpaper, and the strange shadows that seemed to move with the flickering candlelight. The real shock came when we entered the infamous doll room. I knew about it: the room filled with hundreds of old, glass-eyed dolls that had been left behind over the years. The walls were lined with them, each staring at you with cold, unblinking eyes. Some of them were broken, missing limbs, or with cracks running through their faces, but they were all there, frozen in time. Mia stood in the middle of the room, running her fingers over their porcelain faces as though they were dear old friends. She smiled. "They're beautiful, don't you think?" she said, as if she were talking about something perfectly ordinary. The dolls stared back at me, their eyes fixed, their faces unchanging. The silence in the room was deafening, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Something about the room felt alive in a way that made my skin crawl. "Yeah, they're something," I replied, though I wasn't sure what I was actually referring to. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Mia didn't seem bothered by any of it. She acted as though this room full of eerie, lifeless dolls was a haven, a place of peace and connection. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. That night, Mia insisted we sleep upstairs, right next to the doll room. I tried to object, but she was already set on it. She said it would help her feel closer to the energy of the house. The moment we went upstairs, the air felt different, colder, heavier, like the house itself was watching us. I couldn't sleep, no matter how many times I tossed and turned. The bed felt too stiff, and the chill in the room never seemed to leave. Around 3 a.m., I was jolted awake by the sound of creaking floorboards. My heart began to race. It wasn't the house settling, this was something different. I lay there, still, listening as the footsteps grew louder, moving across the floor above us. I thought it was Mia at first, but when I looked over, she was still sleeping beside me, her breathing slow and steady. Then, a soft hum filled the room. A child's voice, barely audible, singing a lullaby. It wasn't a song I recognized, and it wasn't coming from Mia. It sounded like it was coming from outside the room just beyond the door. I forced myself to get up and tiptoed toward the door, my heart pounding in my chest. When I opened it, I was greeted by nothing but the darkness of the hallway. The air was thick with the smell of dust and decay, and the rocking chair in the nursery was gently swaying back and forth, though no one was sitting in it. I shut the door quickly, my hands shaking, and climbed back into bed. I didn't say anything to Mia. I couldn't. She was already drifting deeper into sleep, unaware of the growing presence that filled the house. By morning, I thought I'd imagined it. I told myself I had. Mia was already up, sitting at the kitchen table, brushing the hair of one of the dolls. She hummed softly to herself, a smile on her face. I couldn't help myself. "Mia, are you okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but the concern was too obvious in my voice. She looked up at me, her eyes wide and bright. "Sallie doesn't like questions," she said, her voice high-pitched and childlike. I froze. There was something deeply unsettling in her tone. It wasn't Mia anymore. Something else had taken her place. She spent the rest of the day talking in that same strange voice, her words tumbling out in a way that felt wrong. She would whisper to the walls, her fingers tracing the old cracks in the plaster. Sometimes she would laugh, softly, like a child sharing an inside joke. But there was no one else in the room. That night, things got worse. We tried to leave the house, but when we reached the door, it wouldn't open. I tried the windows, they were stuck, sealed shut. No matter what I did, I couldn't get out. It was as though the house itself was keeping us inside. Mia wasn't scared. In fact, she smiled. "Sallie says you can't leave until you're nice," she said, as if it was a normal thing to say. I didn't know what she meant, but something about her demeanor terrified me. I tried to calm myself down, but the weight of the house, of something unseen, was pressing down on us. And then, just as I was about to lose it, every single doll in the room fell forward at once, as though pushed by an invisible hand. The room felt like it was closing in, the air heavy with fear and dread. Mia collapsed to the ground, her body going limp, and in that instant, the door unlocked by itself. Without thinking, I grabbed her and ran, not stopping until we were outside in the fresh air. The drive home was silent. Mia didn't speak. I couldn't bring myself to ask her what had happened, or what she had seen, but I knew deep down that we would never be the same again. 3 weeks later, Mia still wouldn't go near dolls. She wouldn't even look at her own reflection. And every night, she whispered in her sleep, "You're next." Neither of us had left the Sallie house the same. I still hear the soft hum of a lullaby sometimes, and every now and then, I feel the weight of those glassy eyes watching me. The house never let go of us. And whatever was in that place, whatever came through, it's still with us.